What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my bets placed for this Saturday's card. In the UFC, we have a banger of a pay-per-view, UFC 281, featuring two championship bouts in the main and co-main event. The main event, middleweight championship on the line at 185. We have Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, and we have Carla Esparza at women's strawweight defending against Zhang Weili, the former champion. 14 fights currently scheduled on this card. I'm really crossing my fingers, hoping they all make it through the weigh-ins and make it to the fight Saturday at the Madison Square Garden in New York. So awesome event. I do have 8 bets placed for this card, 5 money lines and 3 props. I'll go over all of those. I'm going to try to cruise through some of these picks and make this a shorter form video as normal. Just get my bets out there and my thoughts. But check out my full card breakdown I released on Sunday earlier in the week for all of my detailed thoughts on the picks and predictions for each of these fighters. And also check out, from a props perspective, I had DFS by the numbers, aka my homie Brady, give us his time, his brain. He is a very talented and very hardworking gambler, long-term success in the game, very popular on YouTube. He came on my live stream the other night and we broke down this fight again, bouncing thoughts off each other, and he gave a lot of his strong opinions on not only the bets from a money line perspective, but a prop perspective as well. So check that out, and I'm going to breeze through these 8 bets. Also in the description, I am a proud betting partner of the sportsbook BetUS Sportsbook, one of the most reputable sportsbooks in the game, and you can use my promo code AddictedToCombat125 for a 125% sportsbook deposit bonus when you deposit anywhere between $100 and $2,500 on the sportsbook. Use that promo code AddictedToCombat125 and you get that 125% deposit match of free money to bet with. Put that money in your pocket and make some money watching fights. Starting off with my first moneyline bet of the night. In the first fight of the night, on the prelims, I got Carlos Ulberg taking on Nikolai Negumereanu. I bet Carlos Ulberg to win his money line minus 125. I put 1.25 units on that to win one. You could probably do better than that. I think the line movement did swing down to like minus 115 to maybe minus 120 on Carlos Ulberg. It's kind of bouncing around, as a lot of the lines are this week. I beat some line movement by quite a bit. I kind of botched some other ones. So, again, this is one you probably could have gotten a better line on. But slight favorite, Carlos Ulberg against Nikolai Negumereanu. Carlos Ulberg is the far superior kickboxer and striker, former professional kickboxer, super powerful, super accurate, and you match that accuracy with the poor striking defense of Nikolai Negumereanu, who's a European wrestler. So, you know, the reason this money line is so close is because we haven't seen a lot of Carlos Ulberg defending takedowns, making sure he can stay on his feet, but he's a big guy, very good footwork, good mover, just like his training partner Israel Adesanya in the main event. So the power, I think, and the striking, the striking skill differential here is so great. I'm forced to take a moneyline bet on Carlos Ulberg pretty confidently. He dropped his last opponent, Tafon Nchukwi, with a jab, finished him off with consecutive strikes in round 1, like a minute in. So I know Nikolai Negumereanu has been very durable, but I think we could even see a standing TKO stoppage if Negumereanu keeps up his poor striking defense, can't defend against all of the strikes coming back his way. So give me Carlos Ulberg pretty confidently at minus 125. I do have 1.25 units on that money line. The next bet on the prelims is Sung Woo Choi to defeat Mike Trizano at featherweight. We've got Sung Woo Choi and Mike Trizano. Neither of the two fighters can really afford to have another loss on their record. Mike Trizano having a pretty poor record in the UFC so far and losing, I think 3 of his last 4 fights. So not a very good record there. He got knocked out in round 3 of his last fight against a newcomer off the Dana White Contender Series. Now Sung Woo Choi, he lost a very close decision against Josh Kulabau, who I think is pretty good in his last fight. Also, his previous loss to that, he almost won the damn fight against Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres. But Sung Woo Choi got really excited, need Alex Caceres as a downed opponent. He got deducted a point, and the fight was reset after some rest. And Alex Caceres, a very slick grappler, able to jump on Choi's back and choke him out. So a fight he probably should have won if he didn't throw that stupid mistake of an illegal strike. And now that's kind of brings up a good point, because Sung Woo Choi has fought a lot of grapplers, a lot of BJJ guys that that's just not his bag. He likes to stand and strike, and he's pretty good at it. So Mike Trezano finally going to give him a favorable matchup here. They're going to stand at kickboxing range, and I think the more fluid footwork, the more fluid mover, and more powerful striker, most likely in Sung Woo Choi, will come out the victor of this fight. So give me Sung Woo Choi minus 160 on the money line. I put 1.6 units to win one. Now we're moving up a few fights ahead on the money line. I do have Dan Hooker to defeat Claudio Puelles. This is a spot where I waited for the money line to come down to minus 144. I put 2 units on Dan Hooker to defeat Claudio Puelles. Now this is similar to the first fight I put a bet on, Ulberg and Negumereanu. Dan Hooker and Claudio Puelles is sort of a striker versus grappler matchup, with Hooker being the kickboxer and Puelles being the better BJJ artist. But Dan Hooker's got a purple belt in BJJ. He's well versed on the ground, some submissions on his record. He knows what he's doing, but he was submitted against Islam Makhachev in I believe a short notice bout. He's lost 4 of his last 5 as Dan Hooker. So, but who are those 4 against? Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, both of who we're going to talk about later. Islam Makhachev, who's the current champion, and also to Arnold Allen in a botched weight drop down to featherweight for Dan Hooker. So far too big for that. He's going to have some reach and a little bit of height over Claudio Puelles. This is a big step down in competition, and there's a few spots in this card where I'm not trusting a lot of the fighters here coming off of losses. But Dan Hooker, a lot of these are forgivable losses, but what makes it better is the money line is not a lot to ask. Minus 144 is not a lot to ask. I put 2 units on it. He's got to defeat a guy who he's much better skill-wise than, just as long as he can stay off of the mat and not get his knee snapped off. That's what Claudio Puelles likes to do. He's got 2 knee bars back-to-back, 3 total in the UFC, but his best wins are over Clay Guida, who's about 40 years old, Chris Grutzmacher, who's nowhere near the top 15. So this is a spot where I like Dan Hooker to just come here. He's got the recency bias that's lowered his money line to a playable value. Give me Dan Hooker 2 units at minus 144. I think he could win this by decision or by knockout, to be honest with you. So the next money line I have is my most confident pick of the card. And by the way, Dan Hooker was my guy Brady from DFS by the Numbers. Dan Hooker was his most confident pick of the card, sort of what talked me onto this bet. So check out the live stream from Tuesday night if you want more detail on our discussion about Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. But moving on to the next one, I do have Dan Hooker. I do have Dustin Poirier as my 3rd money line, 4th money line on this card, minus 175 at 2.5 units to win. Just shy of, 1.5 units there. So I do have Dustin Poirier to just be the more skilled guy on the feet. I think his boxing is way better than Michael Chandler's technically. I think Michael Chandler was just in a war with Justin Gaethje, where I think people are expecting this fight to be very similar. Like, it's going to be violent. This fight's going to end within 1 round. Either guy is live to get the knockout. I don't think it's that way. I think Dustin Poirier is going to use his physical advantages to stay at range, his technique to stay at range and stay safe. And he's live to finish Michael Chandler, who's probably the least of the 2 guys as far as durability goes. So Chandler's got the wrestling advantage, but never really goes to it that much as his primary tool to win. And Dustin Poirier has only lost to 2 guys since 2016, and those 2 guys were Khabib Nurmagomedov and Charles Oliveira. So 2 of the best lightweights to ever do the damn thing. I think those are pretty forgivable. Michael Chandler's 2-2 in the UFC. He was a Bellator champion, but I think he's a bit outsized and outmatched here skill-wise. So give me Dustin Poirier. Again, this is my 4th money line of the card. 2.5 units at minus 175 on the money line. Now, again, I beat some line movement on that. It moved pretty quickly. Like, in one night, it went from minus 175 to like minus 200. I think now it's minus 220. I still don't hate that line. I think you could play that with some pretty good confidence at minus 220. My 5th money line of the card is in the main event. Middleweight championship on the line. I am taking the champion to once again defend his middleweight strap, successfully stay undefeated at middleweight against his former kickboxing adversary, Alex Pereira. I've got Israel Adesanya. Again, I beat some line movement early. Minus 175 on the money line. I put 2.5 units. Once again, same money line and same wager as the last fight with Dustin Poirier. But this time it's an Adesanya against Alex Pereira. Look, the experience is everything here. Israel Adesanya's got more than, 4 times the amount of fights as Alex Pereira at professional mixed martial arts. He's got a great jab, good feints, good stance switching. He's just way more fluid, and his striking defense is unmatched. He barely gets hit, and when he does get hit, it's not very clean either. He knows how to roll with punches and strikes to not let it land flush. And we saw something about Alex Pereira in his fight against Bruno Silva a year ago. His striking defense is not that great. He can get countered over his jab. He can get hit to the body. He can get, whenever he's throwing that jumping knee to close distance, a big overhand can kind of crack his chin there. So Alex Pereira, I love that he's aggressive. I love that he's powerful, but his striking defense leaves a lot to be desired. That gets somebody with the finesse of Israel Adesanya. So Izzy can make it boring. He's not above making it a boring fight. He's done that with all the power punches so far. Paulo Costa, he actually finished, but since then, what did he fight? Yoel Romero before that, very boring fight. He edged it out points-wise, just barely. And then over the summer in early July, he beat Jared Cannonier, big, former heavyweight power puncher, avoided the big power punches and had a kind of a boring, lackluster decision win. But that's what it takes. He's boring through no fault of his own. He wants to stay clean and not get hit, which is great in this fight. So usually my moneymaker is Adesanya by decision, which is sitting around plus 125. But this money line is playable at minus 175. Even where it's at right now, the minus 200 to minus 210, I still like that for Adesanya for sure. Moving on to some props here. I have 3 props. I'll start with my biggest one, which will piggyback on one of the fights we've bet earlier. I've got... this is not my biggest prop bet, but this is my most masochistic, stressful, blood pressure inducing. I got half of a unit on the over 2.5 in Dustin Poirier against Michael Chandler. I know, plus 215 odds though for 0.5 units. I got that before the line dropped. I think it's now sitting around minus 160, minus 150 for the over 2.5. These are 2 lightweights, you guys. So plus 215 on the money line indicates a 32% implied probability that this happens at that money line. For 2 lightweights to go over who have been pretty durable against high-level competition in the past, I got to take it. Half a unit stab just to see if I can more than double my money on that one, just for it to go halfway through the 3rd round. I think it does happen. Like I said, I don't think Dustin Poirier is going to have the poor cardio that Justin Gaethje had against Chandler, which kind of made that fight be a brawl, right? They were just throwing one power strike after one power strike, landing on each other without really the cardio to brace or defend those strikes. Poirier is way more polished, and I think he will stretch this out over 2.5 rounds. At the money line, I like it. Now, my biggest prop, as far as a wager goes, I put 3 units on a time prop, the Matt Frivola Atman of Azaitar fight, to go under 2.5 rounds. So again, the same as the Chandler Poirier fight, just the opposite direction. This just has to end before halfway through round 3 for Atman Azaitar, who has a 13-0 record, 12 of his fights have not seen the scorecards, 10 knockouts, 10 first-round finishes for Atman Azaitar. Matt Frivola loves to get in wars as well. He's been notorious for getting finished, a couple of times. Knocked out pretty badly by Polo Reyes early on. He got knocked out in 7 seconds by Terrence McKinney just about a year and a half ago. And he just ended a fight in round 1 with 4 knockdowns over Genaro Valdez. So this guy likes to go to war. He has the power to end the fight. He has the chin to get cracked and finish the fight very quickly himself. So give me Atman Azaitar. I think he does win this fight, but I don't even need to pick a winner. I just want this fight to see violence. So one of these guys' cardio can fail. One of their chins can fail. As long as it's under 2.5 rounds, I beat that line movement at minus 125 for 3 units. I think that price is now up to like minus 180. Anything under minus 200 for the under 2.5 for this fight, I still advise that bet. I think it's a great bet. The 3rd prop is my smallest one. It is a 0.25 unit quarter unit sprinkle on Montel Jackson to win by submission over Julio Arce. And this is a sneaky prop that I've been kind of like dreaming up all week. I got this on FanDuel at plus 900. I think most other books it's plus 800, but I got quarter unit on Montel Jackson to win by submission over Arce, plus 900 odds, more than, 9 times in your money at a quarter unit. And this is a spot where Montel Jackson is trained in a lot of good BJJ gyms. Up here, Pura Vida BJJ gym. He's trained with Red Schaefer, who used to train with Duke Rufus. This guy has got a sneaky, Darce choke on his record, and only one of them. So that I think that price is a little bit higher because of that, and most people will assume either a decision or a knockout from this guy. And we've got on the opposite side Julio Arce, who's only been subbed at one time pre-UFC, a guillotine by Brian Kelleher. So look, this is going to be a spot where Montel Jackson shoots for a takedown with his wrestling base every single fight he's in, unless he ends the fight before that. So he loves to get in scrambles. He's always hunting for submissions. If you watch his fights carefully, he ends up sometimes going submission over position, gets in scrambles where he has to defend submissions. So he's a guy who loves to play the jiu-jitsu game, loves to grapple, and I think taking Julio Arce off of his feet is going to be the smart game plan in this fight. So we're hoping that Montel Jackson takes the fight to the mat and, tries to find a choke in this fight or some sort of submission. I think at those odds, it's more likely than they indicate by far. So those are my 3 props I have. Some live dogs in this fight card. I don't have any dogs on my money lines, but some live dogs. I think Ryan Spann is a live dog, honestly, at his price tag. Live dog against the guy in Dominic Reyes, who we have not seen fight to a victory since 2019 over Chris Weidman, who moved up a weight class. That's been a long time since we've seen Dominic Reyes in the cage, much less getting a win. I think Ryan Spann at 205 has the power to be a live dog in his money line. I also do like Frankie Edgar, honestly, even though he's 41 years old, and this is his retirement fight. I think his style is one to beat Chris Gutierrez, and I think Frankie Edgar is a live dog, again, at his money line. And I also do like Wellington Turman. This is a guy who I'm not picking him to win the fight, but at his money line, I think he does have a chance to win this fight because Andre Petroski certainly is known to gas out by round 1, much less round 2 or 3. Give me Wellington Turman to be a potential dog here as well at his money line at the price it's at now, which is, let's see here, we're looking at Wellington Turman. Yeah, he's all the way up at plus 170. You could probably do even better than that on a couple of books towards fight night. So again, I think Petroski's got the tools to win this fight. I think he's the deserved favorite, but not at minus 200. Wellington Turman is certainly a live dog along with the other 2 names I mentioned. So those are my thoughts on potential dogs, potential spoilers to the party. But otherwise, yeah, guys, there's my 5 money lines, my 3 props, and a couple of dogs that I think do have a chance to spoil the party on this card. Stay tuned for the recap on Sunday. I will, provide, of course, a conclusion to how these bets have gone. And, we've got another fight night next Saturday with Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak, as well as I will have Johnny K Picks on my live stream on Wednesday to go over that fight card, but also the main card of Bellator 288, because me and Johnny K Picks are actually going together to go to Bellator 288 to see that Vadim Nemkov and Corey Anderson rematch. So that's going to be fun. So on my next week's live stream, we'll be covering both UFC and Bellator. It should be a lot of fun. I'll talk more about that on my recap video on Sunday, but good luck on all of your betting action, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Cheers.